Hello, welcome back. It's week 56 on Out on That Line. I'm Geoff with my co-host Alex. Alex, how you doing this week?
Allie wants a mango right now. We were talking about mangoes before we went on the air, and I am dying for some mango with black pepper.
Oh, yeah, there are a few things better than a nice, fully ripe, fresh mango.
And you're straight mango. You don't season.
I don't season. I don't. I mean, you could put it in a fruit salad, so you mix it in with some other fruits and stuff, but I'm a mango purist.
Okay.
I like them just fresh off of the whatever that core. I guess just core, same as an apple. Is it the seed? Do you call it the seed? I don't know. Whatever
Is
that
it
really
pit?
hard middle part you don't eat. The pit, maybe.
We need a mango expert on the show.
We need a mango expert on the show. I know my dog loves mango. I don't think she's going to have a lot to say about the actual physical construction of the mango, but we could find one. Somebody out there knows a lot more about mangoes than we do. We're going to find them, and we're going to get this information to you, our listeners, because it's that important to us that you know what we know.
It is that important to us. And speaking of important business, Geoff, did you want to remind the people of something that they can't afford to forget?
I did. Make sure you go vote. So we have our end of the year nominations that are due December 1st. If you have an album that you think is the knockdown, drag out best album of the year, let us know. If you have a song that absolutely hit you in the right moment, absolutely made your year, you let us know. If you have something you hated this year, we'll accept worst ofs as well. If you have something you absolutely hated, maybe it's even an episode of this show. Who knows? But let us know. We want to know in the year 2021 what got you going from the world of music. And we'd love to talk about it. We're going to have an end of the year episode, but we need to know those things by December 1st because we're professionals and we need a little bit of time to get that information together and put together a spectacle of an end of the year show for you.
I think also I'm putting this intent out here based on all of that. I feel like we really got to whip up some promotional stuff for this. We got to get some shit on the Instagram and on the Twitter. We got to do some I think video content is the way to go. We got to whip the people into a lather, but definitely we need that level of enthusiasm. We need that level of buy-in. And I think that is created through a strong social media presence.
Yes. And we also, what we can do, we can take that opportunity. We've had a private investigator out there for the last few weeks trying to find out who stole the lost episode of Out on That Line. If you go back, we were supposed to talk about Lucy Dacus and her album, but somebody stole the episode. It's been gone. I don't know if you've been upset about this as much as we have, but if you know anything about it, let us know. We'll pass the information on to our guy to look into. We also are going to need those album recommendations. So Lucy Dacus lost episode information, album recommendations, we need all of it by December 1st.
Here's the thing. You want to know the real conspiracy? I don't think it's you and me sitting on a bunch of information and titillating the people. I think they all know damn well what happened to the lost episode. They're all in on it.
You
they
think
just
so?
Sit there in silence and consume this, and they like that we act oblivious, but I know the score, okay? I saw this coming a mile away. And the only way you can make this up to us is to participate. So make sure you get that shit to us, or I will personally harass you. I might not even know you, motherfucker, but I will personally harass you.
Yeah, and we got time. Believe that, we got time.
I got nothing but time.
Yes. Well, now that important business is out of the way, Alex, did you have something that you wanted to talk about this week?
I did. This is a controversial topic, but as you know, Kacey Musgraves, star-crossed, not eligible for Country Album of the Year.
Yes.
This is a hot topic issue, hot button issue. What's your take, Geoff? What's your take?
So I'm going to be extremely controversial here as well and say I can fall firmly on either side here, whatever argument you want to make. Just because someone is a country artist or has traditionally been a country artist, does that mean that all of the music is country music? Now I'm going to bring someone up here, Taylor Swift. Would you consider Taylor Swift to be a country artist at all?
Friend of the pod,
these
Taylor
days?
Swift. That's not what comes up. She's pure pop to me.
exactly. Like she used to be country. Like that was, her first couple albums I think were very country. Kacey Musgraves, same thing, but then they made that departure towards more pop music, and she started with Golden Hour. There was still plenty of country on there, and there is a little bit of country on Starcrossed. Not to say that she's completely abandoned it, but she was very clearly interested in doing other styles of music, which is fine. But you can't act upset when you no longer qualify for a genre of music that you don't really fall into with that particular album. She could go back to country anytime and get nominated for that category. It's not that they weren't trying to hold her out. It's just like, how far can you go outside of a traditional country sound before it's not considered that genre of music anymore?
Well, and that's kind of where I fall too, is like, if you look at straight up the material, not necessarily the person who wrote it, if you're looking at what is the sound in this instance of the album, it is a pop album. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like, God damn it, she should have stuck to country. It was a pop album. It was her going out on a limb. It's all the stuff we love. It's all laudable stuff. Therefore, if it receives a nomination for Best Pop Album of the Year or something like that, if she receives some kind of artist nomination for the work, that should tell you that it was of quality. It didn't have to be country. I see her argument, which is like, in a genre like country, there is lower visibility for the women of the genre. They have to work twice as hard, and we need to, when the genre latches on to someone like that, you need to kind of keep them in the fold and not alienate them. It's like, I understand that argument. Like, you're a female country hero, and that means something, and it truly does. But why can't the female country hero take a detour into pop and get rewarded for that?
Yeah.
It doesn't negate her.
Yeah, I think people are focusing too much on, whether it's country or not, than are appreciating it for what it is, which was a pretty good pop album. There's a lot of good stuff on that album. I didn't like it as much as I like Golden Hour, but I think that says I'm saying more about Golden Hour than I am about Starcrossed in this instance. Like, Starcrossed was fine. It just, I didn't think it was a country album. And I don't think, would you consider like Sound and Fury by Sturgill a country album?
No, not a goddamn lick.
Not a bit of it, right? And a lot of Sailor's Guide to Earth wasn't even a country album too. I mean, it was like a kind of a big band, like orchestral album almost on a lot of it. And I don't know. I can understand why she would be upset, because country is what she's always done. It's who she's always been. That's how she came up. And so to be excluded on, what you are feeling is your biggest album release of your entire career, to be excluded from a category that you've always held near and dear to yourself as an artist, I can understand why you'd be upset about that. But I fall on the side, I think what it comes down to is like, how far can you get from traditional kind of country sounds and topics and things like that? How far can you get before it's not considered country anymore? And I think she went past the line to where that album can't really be considered country.
She did. She blew past the line, and honestly, if you want the hot take in my true opinion, I don't think the album should even be in the discussion for best of anything. I really was hugely disappointed by it. So
that's
to
fair.
me, the controversy is that it would be nominated for anything at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many albums this year that, and I didn't hate that album. I think on that episode, I think we came to the conclusion that I liked it a little bit more than you did. But it's, it certainly was not, I don't think it's going to even be a top 10 album for me this year. Just kind of, even looking at the one we're doing this week, and we'll get into it in a little bit, like, I like the one that we're doing this week more than I like that album. I like the Strand of Oaks album more. There's a lot of stuff even just recently that I've liked more than that album. And it's not that I think it's a terrible album. It's just, I don't think it's country, and I don't think it's going to win the best of lists. I don't think it was quite at the level of Golden Hour, but not everybody is, very few people have ever released an album at the level of Golden Hour. So,
right.
I don't think you're really taking a lot away from Starcrossed. It's just, that's a tough act to follow.
It is. And I try to like keep that in mind, but for me, it just like really is a disappointment. It didn't come together for me. And so I don't necessarily hate it, but I'm disappointed. And at best, the songs are competent when they do hit. At worst, they're just they suck the bag. And I just look at all of that and I'm like, still love her, still going to be a Kacey Musgraves guy. Obviously, Golden Hour is written into the Out on That Line lore. Love that album. Listen to it on my birthday every year. But yeah, it's just star-crossed whiffed for me. And that's for me. Taste is subjective. Star-crossed whiff for me. So the controversy to me really is, why are we even talking about this?
Yeah, and that's fair. That's absolutely fair. It's like, yeah, it takes a pretty, I don't know, I guess it takes a pretty big ego to release an album that's not even country and then get mad when it's not nominated for the best of country albums list of the year. You know, it's tough.
Yeah, that is a tough look, which is, you know, you hear that and it's hard to feel too bad. And it's like, I understand the argument, but all things considered.
And I honestly, I didn't even look at the other nominations for the best country album. I just saw that this one had been excluded. So I was like, well, it's not like I was going to pay, because I mean, I guess Sturgill, is he nominated for that? For the Ballad of Dude and Juanita?
I doubt it. I highly doubt it.
Oh, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, if an album like that isn't even nominated, then what's the point?
It might have been nominated in some like special category or something, but I feel like the time when it came out and what it was probably got it disqualified. That, and they just have no love for Sturgill until it suits them.
Yeah, that's so weird to me. And I wonder, I think Tyler Childers released that Long Violent History album this year. I don't think that's like mostly a instrumental album, so I don't think that would get nominated. But there's, I think there's like Kelsey Ballerini or people like that. If they released albums this year, those are the ones that are going to get nominated in that category, you know, because they're going to be like straight up country. And whether they're as good or worse or whatever than Starcrossed, whatever comparison they are to Starcrossed, the fact is they are country albums. So they are going to deserve to be in that category first.
Yeah. Nope. That's why don't we leave it there? I completely agree.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Well, this week we have a hell of an album. This one was brought up and suggested by you, and I'm so glad you did. In fact, I think you should be the one to bring us into this one.
Okay. Well, I fell out of love with the Spotify algorithm for a good long time. It just wasn't chucking me what I love. It was just giving me the same old crap, to the point where I like stopped using Spotify as much. And I was like, I would like use it for the show, but I didn't really go truffle hunting as I'm accustomed. So it's kind of a weird Spotify dry spell, but then business started to pick up. And I was just shooting through at light speed all these different songs and suggestions, just like Templeton the Rat, just stuffing genres and artists with 17,000 plays, just cramming it all in my fat cheeks. And on part of that blitz, I came across Illuminati Hotties. And Mother of God, is this some of the weirdest, most refreshing fucking upbeat punk ass music in a long time.
Oh yes. This, I had never heard of this band ever. And it's really just, and you can talk a little bit more about this too. It's just really one person. Illuminati Hotties is just kind of like their version of like Strand of Oaks. You know, it seems like it's that same kind of thing, but goddamn, what a ride this album is. I mean, it just like, I felt like I was on like a roller coaster that was going to go off the rails at any time.
I love that feeling.
Speeds. Yeah, it was so cool. This whole thing was so cool. And tell us a little bit more about Illuminati Hotties. Give us like some of the background here, because this is a really interesting band.
Okay, so yeah, it is much like a Steely Dan. It is technically the aesthetic, the brainchild of, and her last name, the pronunciation is open to interpretation. So I'm going to say Sarah Tudzin, Tudzin. Haven't heard it pronounced out loud, but she really is the innovator of her own genre, tender punk, as she would put it. And it's songs that rock but can address very tender or harrowing subject matter without getting bogged down in despair. It keeps a sense of what she also calls poptimism. And I think that absolutely holds true on this album in particular, where it's just got this like relentlessly irreverent spirit to it that is very evident throughout not just this album, but her other work, which I went back and checked out. So here's one admission before we move on. Before I even thought about recommending this album for us to do, when I listened to it the first time, I listened to Pool Hopping, the first song, and I loved it. And I was bopping around, and I was just about to send it to Tanner and Tyler, and I was like, nope, I'll be ridiculed for this. This probably isn't as good as I think it is. Because every time I send those guys something, they don't listen to it, as we know. So I was
Tell
worried.
Me how you really feel.
We're airing it out. We're airing it out. But yeah, no, I was like, oh, I don't want to get roasted for liking this. I wasn't like sure if it was good, even though it was bringing me tremendous joy. And I think in its own way, that is the best way to describe this music. It's just some weird, anxious shit that she turns into feel-good punk.
Yes. I got the same feeling from this as I did when we listened to that Courtney Barnett album. The Sometimes I Sit and Think, Sometimes I Just Sit, I think is the name of that one. The same thing is like a zillion bands have done this song, but Kids in America. Like that kind of punk, like that very California kind of skater, surfer punk where it's like, you know that they don't have maybe the anger and the aggression that like a Washington, D.C. hardcore band or like a New York punk group would have. But it's like still got that aggression in the speed of the music, but that subject matter is just like very much, kind of like a teenage rom-com sort of depth to it. But that makes it so it's easily understandable. So all these like stops and starts and like kind of off the rails stuff we get throughout the album, we're able to appreciate all that because we can focus on that stuff, and the lyrics are easy enough to just kind of take us along for the ride. And you get to enjoy what I think is the best part of this album is just the musicality, how it never does what you think it's going to do. And that to me was such an enjoyable experience. Oh
yeah. It's absolute fucking anarchy and pandemonium. And it's just like never not exciting. And it has a high re-listenable factor. I have gone back every time and found new shit to love and new songs to zero in on. It's just like doing so much while not, once again, one of our favorite phrases in Out on That Line lore, it's not putting a hat on a hat. It's not just being weird for weird's sake. It's like a very clear soundscape that she's trying to create. And it's, like you said, it's like a fucking ride that's about to just completely fly off the handle. Interesting backstory to this album getting made. So Sarah Tudson had all of these songs written, and this was going to be her sophomore album when she was signed to the label Tiny Engines. Tiny Engines then ran out of money and stopped paying any of its signees, so they were just like starting to owe money all around, and she pretty quickly realized she should get out of that obligation to the label, and she owed them an album. So she went in like 48 hours and just dashed off a whole bunch of shit and collected it onto this like weird album length mixtape called Free IH. This is not the one you've been waiting for. And it fulfilled her contract and then was like a promissory note for let me do one more. The album we're reviewing. So I think that typifies who you're dealing with here, which is a Hall of Fame bad bitch. Like, she finds a way. She got her start producing and engineering by just cold calling motherfuckers and being like, can I come work there? She's just like, she's unstoppable. She's an unstoppable force.
Hell yeah. And I love that, and I feel like maybe because, you get such a clear sense of an artist, you're able to like get a much more emotional and kind of personal connection with the music when they are just one person. You're like, think of all the albums that we've loved so far. It's like, we don't do a lot of bands per se, it's a lot of solo artists. Like, think of the ones that we've loved. Kacey Musgraves, who we were talking about, Tyler Childers, Sturgill Simpson, Strand of Oaks, one guy, Tim Showalter. He's got like a rotating all-star cast of indie rock musicians that come and help him out with the stuff. But I feel like that's what this is too. I feel like all of the things that we have really enjoyed, I think, are made generally with a singular person as the catalyst behind most everything on that album. And I feel like that's what makes it a much more visceral, vulnerable experience, because it's not just a band. Even though we listened to Dirty Honey, that was an album that I enjoyed quite a bit. You were kind of meh on, but you didn't hate it. But it's like, that's the sort of thing where a band can almost hold it back a little bit, because it's tough to connect with a group versus one. And I think that's what the strength of this one is. Whether she calls herself by her real name or Illuminati Hotties doesn't really matter. As long as what's coming out is authentic like this, I'm going to always enjoy it.
Yeah, totally. And just like the DIY spirit behind the whole thing is so absolutely wholesome. Like, this is a success story you can root for, and it's none of it is manufactured. That's the shit she's taking down on this album, is this idea of like polishing something and putting it in a package and making it so that the greatest number of people can digest it. She's like, no, I just have ideas that need to get out of there and shit that I think would sound cool together, and I'm just going to do that instead. And she's just like a day one badass, because she was trying to get people to let her like mix their stuff or produce them, and people would hear her out. Like, she's really good friends with Lucy Dacus, who went around and vouched for her. And she wanted to produce people and do some engineering for them. And they would all be like, yeah, but what else have you done? And she hadn't done anything to that point. So she's like, okay, I need a calling card. Fuck it. I'm going to go in the studio and do it myself. So when her boss was away and the studio was empty, she just snuck in and recorded all the shit and put it together and came out with this album called Kiss Your Frenemies, I think 2018. But like, she made her own calling card. She made her own opportunity, and that got immediate buy-in from everyone. Like, the second she was cut loose to do her own thing, everyone's like, what the fuck is this? And how do we get more?
Yes. And there's so much of this sounds like very standard commercial pop, but as soon as you settle into that groove in like any of these songs, it's like she's just salting the earth. It's like, none of these are going to be like huge mainstream pop hits, because they're just like, right when you get rolling, she'll throw a bridge in there that has like this weird diminished chord breakdown, like that, something like that in there. It's just like completely different from the rest of the vibe of the song, where it's, it's almost like she just kind of had this lightning bolt of inspiration, was like, I'm going to stick this here in this song. Like, I want to do this, and it goes here. And there's so much of that throughout the album, but that's what keeps it interesting the whole time. It's like listening through the whole album is appreciating all those moments where, it just doesn't do what you think it's going to. Like, I've heard a zillion pop punk songs. I've heard a zillion rock and roll songs. I've never really heard anything that did anything like this, where it's just like, as soon as I thought I was sure what was going on, nope, rug was pulled out from underneath me again and again and again on this album.
Yeah. What is the Roddy Piper quote? It's like, just as soon as they have all the answers, I start changing the questions. And that's it. This is the Roddy Piper of albums.
That could not have been a more accurate description of how I felt about this album.
It's great. You want to jump right in?
Let's do it. The first one that we picked is actually, I think, the first song on the album, Pool Hopping. This was one of your picks, Alex.
Yeah. So first of all, it's an immediate introduction to the pop punk aesthetic that you're going to get in this. Again, this was the one I was scared to send to everybody, but in many ways, I'm like, this is the signature song of the album. There are some that I would argue are better, or maybe I like better. But like this was the song where I was all in, and it's the first fucking song. I was like, I'm gonna love whatever this fucking album is. I can just tell. This is not a Pearl Charles situation where I get one song in and get my fucking feelings hurt. So,
damn, Pearl Charles has got a lot of ricochet shots.
I know.
Weeks.
I feel so bad because I've actually interacted with her on Instagram too. Like, I think she's a perfectly sweet person, and I love that song. But anyway, enough about me and my weird parasocial relationship with Pearl Charles. This is one of those songs you're talking about. Like, these are songs that would never get mainstream airplay because they're too weird. But also, this is an album that's about the reclamation of pop punk, which had been diluted, the reclamation of rock and roll, female-driven rock and roll, a pop sensibility. It's taking all of these things back from having been completely corporatized, which she talks about on this album. So this song and other songs on the album have this great, like, mocking voice that she does, where she's absolutely taking the piss out of the industry. Just one of these, like, I'm a stupid bitch to her delivery, to the point where, like, it doesn't even sound cynical, but the satire is not lost on you. It's just, like, funny. This is a funny fucking album, and Pool Hopping is a funny fucking song.
Yeah, and I love that she just thumbs her nose at the industry so much in this one. I mean, in the chorus, pool hopping, window shopping, off hours, buzz the tower. You know, that's what this song is doing. She's buzzing the tower of what the normal kind of traditions in pop punk have been. You know, she's really like, kind of like the Maverick. You know, she feels the need for speed. This album has given us every bit of it. And I think this song is such a good introduction to that, because it starts right out with the weird shit too. It's not like she plays like a nice, happy, like even one to get you into the rest of the album. It's like, nope, this is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to stay. If you're going to listen to this album all the way through, just know this is what I'm going to do. And it just, like, such a great way that you just get sent over that first little mound on that roller coaster when you get that first big pickup of speed down the hill. That's what this song felt like. And I was like, this album is going to deliver. I had my hopes up so high, and it met them.
It's another way I could describe it is, like, this song in particular, Pool Hopping, is if April Ludgate wrote a breakup song, because it's very much got that. It's a song about, like, being right in the middle of relationships. You're like, oh, I'm pretty sure the one I'm in is collapsing like a jellyfish on land. And now I have to reconcile with, like, okay, well, I got to get back out on the scene, and I'm, like, right in the middle. So she's window shopping. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Confused and single, but a girl's got to eat, and I just got to enjoy being in between the worlds. And just paints this, like, very vivid picture of what that culture is like. The hook on this fucks. Pool hopping, window shopping. And again, it's got that, like, let's all go to the mall. Or we'll get him in here because it's relevant. Frank Zappa had the song Valley Girl. And, like, oh my God, totally. Like, that kind of thing. That's her attitude in this one. But she's also, like, not being ironic about the content. Like, this is based on a place where she actually was. It's little details like stealth makeout, breakfast takeout. These little, like, visual vignettes that you get. She's really good at that. A line like, you're twisted like an ampersand. That's an immediate visual picture for you. She's so fucking good at that.
Yes. And I think how clever she was on Pool Hoppin' is only matched by the next one, the next pick. You're welcome for being the one to pronounce that.
It's literally, I've also heard it referred to in circles as Moo, for simplicity's sake.
Okay.
But thanks for lying on that.
Would have been nice to know, but continue.
Because it's literally the chorus, which is nonsense. Ooh, yeah. Like, I love the way she names stuff too. She's got a song off of This Is Not the One You've Been Waiting For. It's something like, will I get canceled if I write a song called If You Were a Man, You Would Have Been Canceled by Now? Just like, again, it's that fuck you, but I'm not actually mad at you. I'm just an imp. I'm Loki. It's that attitude. So Moo is, like, I think the origin of that attitude, because it's based on an event where she was performing for a bunch of industry, like, movers and shakers, and they bailed halfway through her set because they were like, oh, it's too glittery, it's too polished, it's too prefab. And she was like, you're right, I was kind of playing to the gallery. So Now I'm going to turn this sideways and stick it up your ass. This song is called Moo 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 Moo. Yeah, 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 yeah. Eat it.
This is, I mean, the chorus is just noises. That's it.
Yeah.
It's perfect. You know, like it's there's no wasted space on this album. That's another thing I noticed. There's no point where I was like, this doesn't really fit here. I just could have shortened that up. It's like it moves from one thing to another so fast, but it's always so seamless that it never feels like you're getting jolted out of the ride. It's like you're firmly planted right along for the ride, no matter how fast she goes around these corners. You know, no matter how much those back tires might be sliding out of place. It's like we're gonna get there. And she just got the pedal to the floor the whole time. And it's the same with this song, because that chorus is also like just pure pop goodness. I mean, just as pure as it gets when it comes to a good, like, big sing-along kind of chorus. What could be better than that?
Well, especially because when it opens, it's got that rickety ping pang, like weird syncope. It sounds like a Primus song. It's like this really foreboding, like pang tang, like the South Park theme song. Those really jarring, jangling guitar sounds. So it starts like that, and then just immediately flips into like a pure light punk pop chorus that is all nonsense words. Because the whole thing is her pushing back against this idea. Like, she's got this line in the second verse, going to visit an Ojai shaman, someone in Ojai, California, to do drugs. So to do the Joe Rogan thing, I got to lose my mind to find myself. Trying to use a process that many people allege have helped them. But through that comes homogeneity, and she realizes it, and it culminates in this perfect fucking line. Once again, the visual imagery. I sit around like an old tortilla, folded and flat, full of mold and bugs. I took the drugs, I did what everyone else does, and now I just feel like stale, flat, old fucking bread. I feel like I'm rotting. I'm not original, I'm stale, I'm past my sell-by date if I do this way. And she doesn't want to do it that way. So then she cuts loose into that fucking giant fuck show where she's ranting about the DNC is up to some shady shit. Call me daddy. I'm bummed out that I can't do laundry. Just like this insane stream of consciousness thing is like the ultimate pushback to trying to put her in a box.
Yeah. And her little rap, I don't even know what you call it at the end. So I do a dabble when I dribble the babble, baby. I had it bad, but now I'm back in the saddle, baby. An extraterrestrial. I used to be grounded, baby. Pitiful puppy. Pick me up at the pound now. I guess I'm too fun. I guess I'm too funny. If you're not laughing, baby, then you're not making money. Ah, ha, 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 ha. Then you're not making money. And then it goes right back. And that's such a weird little part. And it just goes zip, right back into that beautiful, pure, sparkly chorus.
I mean, just it loses something without the gesture, but chef's kiss.
Yeah.
It's fucking amazing the way that it moves. It is a cosmic gumbo.
Good. Just so good. Oh, you snuck that, you son of a bitch. You didn't even lead into it.
No, not at all.
No
not
accent, nothing. You just snuck it in there.
Not
oh, God, you did it. God damn it.
It's bits on bits on bits.
All right. The next one was one of my picks, about goddamn time. This one is Need, spelled Knead, like your cat does to your butt when you lay on the couch. That was the most apt kind of description of what kneading is. Oh, I guess I could have talked about bread dough.
Sure.
Yeah,
you could have.
Everybody's on the internet.
But you went with cat ass instead, and I respect it.
You know, 1A, 1B situation there. Either one, you're getting the gold. So this one I just love because it's just fucking weird, man. Like it's there's not a lot of lyrics in this one, but it's just so weird. This feels like the really dirty song on the album to me, and it's just so good. When I was listening to it, I was maybe the most captivated by this one than any other song on here.
Well, Geoff, you're exactly correct. This is the fuck song on the album. I'm surprised I didn't pick it. But you're right. It has that energy where it's got this like very like randy sound to it. It's got it's very 90s like peak grunge. You hear these little flashes of like Soundgarden or Nirvana in the DNA. And again, not like, oh, it's a carbon copy. It's just these little blasts that pop up every now and then. But it's got this like very jangly grunge sound. But then it's all about making cupcakes with somebody who like is more interested in using that as a pretense to fuck than to actually have cupcakes. Because like the guy, ostensibly guy, I don't want to assume anyone's sexuality, so we'll say the person. The person in this scenario is fucking doing the thing where you pull the frosting off with your finger and lick it erotically. Talking about, he turned his hand, oh, I guess it is a guy. He turned his hand into an eagle and left a flower mark on the inside of my thighs. Again, that image of just like, yeah, we're in the kitchen. I've seen plenty of pornos that start like this. This is the Netflix and chill of baking activities. This is all a pretense to just fuck. It's got that kind of energy to it.
I mean, anybody that involves food in it, I mean, to each their own. Obviously, we're not here to kink shame. Do what you got to do. But a cupcake, man, I can think of a lot better things I want to do with a cupcake than any of that. And number one is eat it. I'd much rather eat that goddamn cupcake than use it in some sort of foreplay. You know? Just seems like a waste. There's other things you can use in that. Yeah. Save the cupcakes.
Cupcakes are foreplay to more cupcakes.
Yes.
That is my official position.
Yes. And that's that. I will second that and make it the official position of the Out on That Line podcast. So write that down.
That's a lot.
But it really just this song, I mean, I think I liked it because it was also like heavier than the other ones too. It was like clearly, I don't know if she was angry when she wrote it, but it was definitely some like angry guitar chords. You know, just the notes that were chosen was definitely meant to be this kind of dissociative sort of sound where it's like you're listening to it, but it's not anywhere close to that chorus like in Moo. And it's not anywhere close to what happened in Pool Hoppin'. You know, it's just, she's just displaying the entire range of like weird rock and roll and pop punk and like bringing those things together. It's like, I feel like maybe this is what would have happened if Frank Zappa played pop punk, is something like this.
Entirely possible. Although he probably would have been like, pop punk, that's for fucking douchebags.
Did you see this mustache? Does this look like a punk mustache to you?
He hated everyone. He hated hippies. He hated punks. He'd probably just be like, you know what's really cool is sitting in your basement 20 hours a day ignoring your family. I love Frank Zappa, but he sounds like he was a real bastard. Well,
anyway.
What's
Genius
that?
is a double-edged sword.
Yeah, well, you got a point there, Geoff. We know a lot about that.
What can you do? The next one I think is my most fun song on the album. The next one he chose is Joni, LA's #1 health goth. And this song clearly is going to be like a funny song just from the title. Clearly like digging at people that are, you know, your health gurus and your influencers and that kind of culture, I think is what that title is meant to skewer. But it's just about this girl, Joni, who is just living every single like stereotype that is supposed to have of like the cool rocker chick. You know, it's like every stereotype about that. And it's funny because I think, is it Sarah is the girl that does
Sarah Tudson? Yeah.
So I think she is also making fun of herself with this song, because I think she's very self-aware and she's like, okay, well, if I'm going to make fun of punk girls, like that includes me. So I think that's why this one is so funny, is because she seems to be very good at self-reflection. When something comes from that sort of authentic place, it tends to land a lot better. Whatever emotion it is, this happens to be humor, and it's just perfect.
Because it's not like judgmental. It's very tongue-in-cheek, and it's taking a bite out of the absurdity of the shallowness of LA, but she's born and raised in LA. She's from there. And that's a very different experience from the girl from the Midwest who moves to LA, which is kind of how I intuit the Joni character to be. By the way, we got a California song on this album. That's another great bit we've got
Let's
going.
go.
That's our California song, baby.
Let's go.
Collect them all. So yeah, in terms of the Joni character, it sure seems like Joni is someone who moved to LA and bought into the way LA is marketed. Because that's what all the parts of the verses are. Is like, Joni's on a juice cleanse. Joni does this and that and the other thing. All this stuff that, like, hey, those sound like a lot of great things she's into, but she's being defined by them. So these free spirits, these drifters, aren't necessarily, as carefree as they would have you believe. And there's kind of a practiced aesthetic to it. However, that doesn't have to be shitty and judgmental as long as you acknowledge it. So that's what Sarah Tudson's doing in the song, is being like, hey, we're all kind of full of shit in different ways when you get down to it. And it's just making fun of the absurdity, all in good fun, without being like a hasty condemnation of a lifestyle.
Yes. And I think this song is where I really got the Courtney Barnett vibes from. Because, one, it's funny. Courtney Barnett is very funny.
Yeah.
I mean, she's very, very clever with her lyrics. And I think they have a similar way of, like, I need to get these words out as fast as I can. Sometimes where it's just like, we're going to get through this verse come hell or high water. I've got, 10 seconds to do a 30-second verse. I just got to spit it out. And the verse, I guess, bridge, outro, I don't know what you would call this part of the song, but Joni's got a brand new mullet, fast and cool as a silver bullet. And she's on your couch and she wants you to pull it. It's just that, like, very tongue in cheek, like you're saying, just a very funny way to say that. Like, she's got the mullet. So she's like this classic rocker chick that's like putting on every aesthetic about California punk rock that she possibly can. But she's still like in it to get dudes, and it's just like funny how she's able to so accurately portray that without seeming like she's just trying to, like, punch down, I guess.
Well, and that's the difference, again, to keep with Frank Zappa. He's got a song called Camarillo Brillo, and it paints that same kind of picture, except it's like horribly misogynistic and like making fun of the woman for having like crazy pubes and lighting incense and stuff. Whereas this doesn't feel like Joni is being made fun of. It's Joni's in on the joke. Sarah Tudson is in on the joke. We are in on the joke. We are all laughing together about, like, aren't we all having a tremendous time? Aren't we all having fun? And yet this is a fucking gut bucket ass, hellbent for leather, discordant punk rock sound.
Yes.
It's like Bomb the Music Industry. I thought of like Jeff Rosenstock. It's got the chaos and the bells and whistles, and it's just fun. It's a fun song. It's not out to hurt anybody.
Yeah, it's a really good one. I think this album is like, it's very much, I think, calling people out, but it's doing it in such a way that doesn't feel like there's a malicious intent behind it.
Right.
It's like that kind of thing where it's like you or I would be with anyone else from like Tanner or Mitch or any of them is like, come on, man, do better. It's like there's no ill intent. It's just like strictly to verbalize what nobody else is verbalizing and saying, like, this needs to get better.
Yeah, it would be like if Tanner and Murray and I roasted you for the Crocs. It's like, it's not actually an issue. It's just we're assholes who found one thing we can pick up on. So we're going to do it because that's what we do. That's what friends do.
You know what? I'm going to buy you all a pair of Crocs and you're going to wear them once and you're going to find out what the hype is about. Now, I'm no big time, like, hop on my soapbox for Crocs kind of guy. I've got two pair. I've got like a pair of slides that are actually very comfortable. They make these like very like gel base or gel sole slides. Very comfortable. Now I have a pair of the classic Crocs that are great for mowing the lawn. Like doing yard work, they're perfect because I can just wash them off after. They're
What
great.
about white Crocs at your wedding?
Well, you're going to have to be wearing them, so careful.
I'm in
what
on
you
the
wish
bit.
for.
I'm in on the bit. If you make us do white suits with matching vests and 10-gallon hats and white Crocs, I'm in.
It's going to be white denim.
Okay.
Lots of turquoise.
Yes.
White Crocs. And I bet I can get some like turquoise charms.
Please.
For those Crocs. Yeah.
Please do get some lapis lazuli, and I'll put that
And
in
some
mine.
bolo ties
Fuck
with
yeah.
the one little piece of turquoise in the middle.
That Phillip Rivers drip, baby.
Yeah. And we're talking like 15-gallon Stetsons.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. Or like Lyle Lovett said, I got a 30-gallon Stetson hat. They'll have 38-foot brims.
You know how disappointed I'm going to be when this doesn't actually happen now. Let's stop talking about this because I'm just going to be really sad when this doesn't happen.
I think I'd be handed divorce papers immediately if I had my groomsmen coming out in something like that.
Well, here for a good time, not a long time.
Well, what do you say we move on?
Yes.
To kickflip. We just push our way down, roll our way down to kickflip.
Yes. So this was my last pick, and I picked this for a very specific reason. And it's because we've had all of this like chaos and fun and ribaldry and irreverence throughout this entire album so far. And then you get to kickflip, and it is an emotional break in the chain. And it doesn't mean a dip in quality. It is a much needed breather, and we've been having so much fun, we kind of need to come back down to earth for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the more vulnerable songs. And musically, it's like pretty patterned out, more so than any other song on this album, where it's a very simple, repetitive vocal melody. It's got this Dog Days of Summer, down and out, sweaty, hot piss sound that just makes you feel like something bad is about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is just like the last gasp of someone living a life of quiet desperation. It's a reminder that once we get sucked into unhelpful coping mechanisms that used to help us survive, they will destroy us if we don't push past the shatter point. So there's this hopelessness in these mundane-ass lyrics. Like, the lyrics are literally just shit she does in a day. I slam a Topo Chico. Good luck with the diarrhea, by the way. But
good luck with the hiccups. Goodness.
Yikes.
Chugging a Topo Chico, that's the bubbliest thing on this planet.
It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
And she's just slamming a Topo Chico casually. But it's just like little mundane aspects of her day that aren't particularly like interesting. It's pretty sad and boring. And as soon as you realize, like, it sounds like every fucking day is Groundhog's Day, she comes in and with that fucking part, but every day is the same, every day is the same, every day is the same, over and over and over again, letting us know, like, yeah, this is me being vulnerable about how, like, time being a flat circle really fucks with me sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is one of those ones where I think we're not really meant to understand, especially verse 2 is like literally just like observations and explanations about what she's done with her day. Verse 1 is the same thing. It seems like verse 1 is more of that circle thing because it's I got a slice in my bed, and then the last line is I bought the grocery store bread. Was she talking about a slice of bread or a slice of weed? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Slice of pizza, but if she's talking about slices, probably talking about that grocery store bread. So it's like you got the slice in my bed. Now I'm going to think about all these things, and then we get back to the bread. It's like we've got this concrete, tangible thing in front of us. Now we're going to spin off into these sort of emotional moments. And then when we pull ourselves, we reel it back in to the real thing in front of us. And I think that's what this song does in general is, we go everywhere on all these other songs in this album. This is the one that I think is really the kind of the root, like the real main stake in the tent that makes up this album. And keeps everything grounded because it reminds you that there's somebody that, she's very tongue in cheek. She's very funny. She's got a little bit of anger, so it's like very much that like kind of California punk rock classic stuff. But this sort of thing reminds you that we're talking about a real human being here with real emotions and a need to express them. And I think this song does a great job at not losing the essence of the album while expressing a completely different vibe than everything else has had.
Totally. It's a vital part of the album. You couldn't do it without it. Like you said, it really truly is a tentpole, which when you look at it on its face, you'd be like, I don't get what they see in the song. But look at it in the context of the entire album. It, like you said, we're not allowed to go on tangents. The song, You try to float away and it grabs you by the ankles. It's like, no, this is a song about being stuck. You can't listen to this unless you feel fucking stuck with me. So welcome to all kinds of patterns. Welcome to all kinds of repetition. Welcome to all kinds of mundane ass lyrics. You're going to stay here and you're going to feel what I feel, motherfucker. And then we'll get back to having fun.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Really, really excellent song. I'm glad you picked this one. I don't know if I would have picked this one because I just like there were more upbeat ones that I had a more fun time listening to.
Yeah.
But it is very important to the album. So I do think of all the 6 songs that we picked, this might have been the most important one to be among the 6 that we picked. Because I think it is, like you said, a tentpole song on this album.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, what do you say? Move on to the last one that we chose, called Cheap Shoes. Now, I picked this one because it got me. It got me good, Alex. Because I was listening to it, I was like, damn, this is that classic straightforward pop punk song that I was hoping for. This is the one. And it is for about half the song. And then she gets fucking weird with it again. And again, I was just so surprised and astounded by how well she like just sends it off the rails. It's like, you know, in cartoons when characters are like racing each other down a mine shaft or something, and it's like one goes by the switch and flips it, so last minute the tracks jump over to the other side, so the people that are chasing them go the other way, go the wrong way. I felt like that's what she continued to do on this album, and especially on this song. It's like, I'm trying to follow what she's doing, and then she gets to one of those crossroads, flips the switch, and I'm off in another direction because I just didn't see which way it was going to go.
Oh, yeah. That's like the perfect way of putting it, because she lulls you in with this like indie rock, pop punk, right down the middle in its purest essence, classically indie but interesting, because like she sprinkles a little new wave dust over there, just a little sneaky little sprig, just to keep it interesting and flavorful. And you see that and you're like, okay, fuck yeah, this song's gonna be great. And it's this message: make sure you buy cheap shoes because you're gonna wear them out, right? Mm-hmm. It's a metaphor to me anyway. Don't get too invested. The shoes are a reminder that degradation happens and it happens fast. So don't bother spending a bunch of money on a good pair of shoes when they're just going to wear out anyway. Don't get too attached. And that's not just the message of the song, that's a message directly to us. Don't get too attached to the way this song is going, because I'm about to fucking throw a stick of dynamite into the middle of it.
Yeah.
Come along with me on a fantastic voyage.
Yeah, this was, I mean, I had so much fun listening to this song, and like every single song on this album, I had a different reason for loving it. This one was just pure fun because I was like listening to it. I was like, yeah, this is the one that's like so tight, so good. This is perfect. Everything's going well. And then all of a sudden I'm like, what the fuck is going on now? Like this all of a sudden went into some crazy like prog rock kind of territory. I'm like, what are we doing here? And every bit of it was just so much fun to just be along for that ride.
So the prog part you're talking about, I assume you're talking about the breakdown where it
Yes.
really starts to go nuts. Do you know how she did that?
No.
She basically recorded 2 different drum tracks.
Okay.
And was panning between those 2 in like a call and response. She listened to that and over that just did like a breakneck sloppy ass guitar solo. Took that into the edit, chopped and screwed it. Re-recorded that same thing on acoustic, but also used the original fucked up version. That's why it like glitches out. It's not even like fancy finger work. It's literally just like chaotic editing of the track.
Hell yeah.
That's why it sounds like a fucking CD breaking. She just like had the mind to do that for the fuck of it. She's like, this would be cool. This would be really interesting if we snuck this in there. I don't know if it was this one or another song on the album, but I was reading an interview where she was like, yeah, pretty much it was 3 songs that I had that were incomplete in their own ways. I just kind of smushed them together. And then I was like, well, it would be cool if you did this. And oh, what if we change this? And then it came out as this. And it like should be a total failure, a total like crackhead song. But it is one of the most meticulously crafted, wonderful, chaotic things I've ever heard.
Yeah, this was a great album. I mean, I was very excited to be able to talk about this one because it's right up my alley. I mean, I love Like, I have a lot of different loves of music. I love country. I love rap music. I love pop music, but my main loves are like prog rock, like Coheed, and pop punk. And those are, you play me some good like hardcore punk or pop punk or prog rock or something like that. You play me some good music from that, and I'm gonna love it. So like someone like Courtney Barnett playing like, definitely more of kind of a surf rock, kind of garage rock kind of thing that she does. Maybe not as much punk, but she does have some punk in there. But it's like when something like Courtney Barnett, sometimes I sit and think, sometimes I just sit. When I listen to that album, I was like, damn, this is not the same as anything I'd heard before. It's a new take on a kind of older genre of music, something that needed to be revitalized a little bit, needed a little bit of that shock therapy. And that's what we got with this album, with Illuminati Hotties. It's just something that is unexpected. I did Illuminati Hotties. Like, what do you expect that to be? Like what kind of band doesn't belie any sort of genre? And then you find out it's one person who hasn't really produced a lot of music. So it's like, you're almost going into this blind if you haven't looked up anything about her, which I hadn't. And so I had no idea what to expect. Came into this like, probably going to be interesting at the very least. And I was floored, absolutely floored by this album. And it just makes me think, how many more albums are out there that I will be absolutely floored by that I may never get a chance to hear because I'm just never going to come across them.
I mean, it's pretty fucking crazy. I mean, we've talked about some of our favorite best kept secrets. I mean, Strand of Oaks. Like, how do you gain more exposure? You know what I mean? Like, it's undeniable talent that a lot of people are appreciative of, but there are some people out there who will never find Strand of Oaks.
Yeah.
So I hear you. I know there's stuff out there. I'm like, if I could just have it fall in my lap, I'll be able to recognize how good it is, but it's underseen because there's no will to get it to me. So in that sense, I'm eternally grateful that Illuminati Hotties came into my life. It was like when I found Lingua Ignota. I was like, I fucking found something that I'm so goddamn passionate about and that I'm going to recommend to everyone and that Tanner's never going to goddamn listen to. I'm just kidding. He heard the last episode and he was like, Jesus, buddy, okay. He went back and listened to a bunch of my stuff. I'm such a bully.
Tanner has caught some heat in the last few episodes, I think. And it's time that we kind of come out and remind people that he is a 2-time co-host of this show. He's the only other person we've trusted with this show. And not that it can't be trusted to other people, but he is the one that has stepped up and been there when we needed someone to step up and be there. And he has questionable ideas sometimes about music. I think he'll say the same thing about me, probably the same thing about you.
Oh yeah.
But I think we do need to take a moment, give Mr. Acebo a little bit of love here.
I'm going to go ahead and say he is the Bernard Purdy of session podcasters. He is a session podcaster. You can slot him in anywhere and he'll shine.
Exactly. Yeah. The best pinch hitter you'll ever meet.
We're happy to have him.
So I'm going to say stream it on this album. I'm going to say if you haven't already stopped this episode to go to listen to this album, do it now.
Yeah.
Go listen to this album. It's a doozy.
Hey, specifically Brandon Martin, I'm calling you out, son. I know you listen. You got to listen to this, man. Like, hearty recommendation. I will follow up over Instagram, but I'm speaking directly to you now through God's microphone.
Listen to this. You heard that, Brandon? You heard that?
You're on notice, Brandon. Brandon sends me so much good shit all the time.
Yeah, I will say, we gave Tanner a lot of love. I think there's also some love to be given out. Maybe there's going to be, I don't know. And that the timing of me bringing this up does not imply that we're going to choose a specific person, but maybe we have like a listener of the year award that we give out.
It's possible. We can at least say that to con people into doing what we want.
So we reserve the right to cancel that segment. But if you think you should be nominated for Listener of the Year, you let us know why. You can find us on Instagram at Out on That Line. You can find us on Twitter at Out on That Line 1. You can find us through email, outonthatline@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube, where you're going to find all our singles videos as well. You got to search hashtag Out on That Line, though, on YouTube. You'll find us there. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that little notification button so you get those notifications when we do post those new videos. Every Thursday, you're going to get those singles videos. Every Monday, you're going to get our regular podcast episodes right there on YouTube, as well as on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. You can expect to keep getting it every single Monday. Alex, do you have anything else?
Let's take it home, Geoff.
Until next time.